Keough will go first, and then Judge Doyal. They'll have a 2-minute opening statement, and then we get to the really fun part, your questions. Sorry, we had the one earlier and I forgot. We have an opening prayer. If you would all stand, please.
Father, once again, we just thank you for this opportunity to be here this evening and share this time together. I thank you for every citizen that's in this room that's really here to try and to learn and to discern on how to place their vote in the coming election. And I thank you, Lord, for these gentlemen that have stepped up to serve this community. And we just ask you, Lord, to help all of us to make the right decision. And we just want to give you thanks and give you the praise and give you the glory in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen.
We'll also just take a moment and make sure that if you have one of these annoying devices, it does not go off during the meeting. Thank you. With that out of the way, Representative Keough, would you like to make an opening statement?
I would. Thank you. Welcome, everyone. I'm so glad you're all here tonight. My name is Mark Keough, and I'm accompanied tonight by my lovely bride, Kim. Kim, stand up if you would, please. I live here in the community. I live both in North County and I live here in South County. I'm married. I've got 4 children. I've got 3 son-in-laws. I've got 3 grandkids. And we're accompanied by 2 dogs, Rachel and Lizzie. Been in the business community for over 26 years. Had the opportunity to retire early, go into full-time Christian ministry. At the same time, I had the opportunity to run for public office. I did so, was successful, and I'm in the second half of my second term, Texas House of Representatives. I'm also the pastor of the Woodlands Bible Church, and as we have a successful growing body, and it's been very exciting to navigate through both of those with great help from the people by my side at the church as well as my family. The reason that I'm running is because as a conservative, I believe that we are a republic. And as a republic, I believe that we have to listen to the people. God has granted us certain rights. Those rights are life, liberty, and to pursue happiness. When government gets to the place where they refuse to let us choose as individuals what we need to do, or as a community, and then they double down and to do whatever that they want to do, if they grow government, whether it has to do with transportation, taxes, whatever, then someone needs to step in, and they need to speak up, and they need to see if they can make changes. So I've done that. I've run on tax reform, transportation, and eliminating the possibility of perceived or real conflicts of interest. While I was in the House of Representatives, I did present a bill, Transparency in Local Government. We'll get a chance to talk about that a little bit later, but this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Judge Doyal.
My name is Craig Doyal. I am a 4th-generation resident of Montgomery County. I graduated from Conroe High School, put myself through Texas A&M University with a roofing business. I've been in the county for most of my life. I've been working with Montgomery County for a long time. I've watched the changes in this community. For those of you that have been here a while, you've seen this county change right before your eyes, particularly in the most recent years. I've watched what it took to get from a very sleepy rural community to what we are today. I know what it's going to take to get us where we go from there. Most of my career has been focused on transportation and mobility. I served as a county commissioner in Precinct 2 for 14 years. I served as your representative to HGAC. In fact, was elected as chairman of HGAC for a period, and focused there on trying to attract more dollars to Montgomery County to meet the mobility needs that we have here each and every day. It's exciting for me to be the county judge. My office is 2 blocks from the house that my father was born in. My family's here. My wife is here tonight. Amy, my daughter's here. My sister's here. We've got a lot of good friends here tonight. I know that the future for Montgomery County is the best days are yet to come. There's no question about that. But we're going to have some challenges. You know, as we grow, we're expected to be at 1 million people by 2035. If we're not doing everything we can do today to meet those needs, then we're not doing our job. And to recognize that the needs in different parts of this county are different. The needs in Magnolia are different than the needs in the Woodlands. And those needs are different than those in New Canaan. Those are different than those in Willis or Montgomery. To meet people at the needs that they have in all those communities, I think is critical. And listen to those communities when they talk to you. They may be different than what you think or what you need, but we have to listen to each and every one. Try to meet those needs. And so I'm proud to have served here, proud to be a resident of Montgomery County. I look forward to tonight answering your questions and look forward to earning your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Remember, when you come up to the podium, when your name is drawn, if you will, be nice and loud. Some people in the back are having a little trouble hearing the questions. So if you'll speak into the microphone, nice and loud. You have 1 minute to ask your question. No speeches, please. And we will start off. Mary Brown.
Y'all talked about the growth of the county from, I think we're now somewhere around 250,000, but to 1 million in a few more years, quite a few, but still. How do you all plan to accommodate this and help it to grow where it needs to be to keep us current with the increasing population as it happens? And keep us ahead of what...
Okay, I'm glad to start that. You know, I've watched where we have come from to where we are today at about 560,000 people. We've worked with developers that have come in trying to encourage partnerships with those developers through our major thoroughfare plan. This last budget, we put 53 new law enforcement positions in place because we know as we grow, we're going to have to continue to increase our law enforcement presence. Hired a new forensic director this last year because our forensic facility is growing. And I found someone at the top of the list to run that operation. We hired a new purchasing director this last year, a 30-year guy with 30 years experience from Fort Bend County to make sure that we're prepared to do the right things moving forward. We looked every day in every way that we can to find ways to cut the budget. We cut our budget this last year 5.5% and still met the needs of this rapidly growing community. And we want people to still continue to want to come here. They're going to come here, but we want to make sure that the quality of life is protected and preserved as they do. And I think we're setting ourselves up to make sure that infrastructure is in place, law enforcement is in place, and all the facilities necessary are in place for that growth.
I think the first thing is that we need to have a universal mobility plan that will go for the entire county. Right now, each commissioner, kind of they're on the last fortress on the frontier, deciding what they want to do with the resources they have in order to move traffic. What I believe we need to do, even though we've talked about it, there are numerous plans that have come up over a number of years. We need to get everybody together and put those plans together. Then we need to go before Commissioners Court, and we need to entertain a motion that we can have an open dialogue about what we need to do about mobility. At the same time, what we need to do with that is bring in community involvement. So we have a huge mobility issue here. The population is growing. By January of 2019, we're going to probably be sitting at right at 600,000 people. Now what we keep hearing is that if we're going to do this, then we need to broaden the tax base so that we can keep our quality of living. The problem here is that as we broaden this tax base, what we keep doing is we keep punishing the people who are here by increasing the taxes. Over a 10-year period, we reduced the tax rate by 2 cents over a 10-year period, while increasing assessments on property 144% for a net result of 133% increase in our taxes. Now that's a problem, and if we're going to continue to grow this community, as the rate goes, as the appraisals go up, the rates must come down. That's going to be a huge way to do it, and if we're not going to build it on the, or increase our community on the backs of the people who have built the community, because that's basically what we're doing in our tax structure. So we have a change in tax structure, a mobility plan. There's a number of things that we still can do. I'm fixing to run out of time, but those are 2 great starters right there.
Thank you.
Got a question. Does anybody in the back have trouble hearing? It's all getting back there okay? Good. Next question will be from Reagan Reed.
This is just touched on a little bit. What I've been noticing is our county continues to either lower the tax rate or keep it the same. My family and my neighbors are paying more and more taxes each year. So if you're elected to another term or if you're elected, will each of you commit to lower the tax rate to compensate for rising appraisals so there's not a net tax increase overall?
Representative Keough, would you lead?
Yes.
Judge Doyle?
What's that? That's me first.
He answered.
Yes, lowering the tax rate as it relates to our appraisals, so that we don't beat up the poor people who have built the community, and that's what we're doing now. And the fact of the matter is the people are being look, we keep hearing about lower rates. I'm not against appraisals. Appraisals going up. Everybody wants their home to rise in value. Does everybody want their home to rise in value? Raise your hand. But the problem is, as the home rises in value, we keep getting pounded with higher taxes. What should happen is we want the appraisals to go up, but the rate should go down so that the actual tax rate pretty much remains the same, except for new construction. That way we broaden the tax base by this record growth that we're having, rather than just keep taxing the people who have built the community. But we've done the opposite. So, answer your question is yes. I will commit to that.
My answer is yes, I will and have. We've lowered the tax rate a number of times, 5 times over the last 10 or 11 years here in Montgomery County. We did a 20% homestead exemption last year for the taxpayers of Montgomery County. We cut our budget by 5.5% below 2016 spending levels. All the while, you probably won't feel that because, Mr. Keough, when you were in the legislature, you voted for Senate Bill 1, which is the budget for the state. If you look at rider number 3, page 3-5, it says that the budget will require a 13.8% increase in school tax collections over the next biennium to fund this budget. So whatever we did at the county got wiped out by a 13.8% increase in school taxes. That's the largest percentage of your tax bill. Now, we're about 16% of your tax bill. We're doing everything we can to try to cut that. The homestead exemption, the tax rate cuts, and lowering of the budget, but we can't. The problem is with school finance. That's where the biggest portion of your tax bill comes from. If you watch it, you look at your tax bill when you get it, and see how much of it is school taxes, how much that's gone up with those appraisals. And this budget that Mr. Keough voted on required a 13.8% increase over the next biennium. So, yes, we will continue to work to lower your taxes at every possible opportunity.
I'd like to rebut that, please. This is my first rebuttal. Yes. First of all, I wasn't there for the vote, so I didn't participate in the first vote. I'd been in an accident. I was in a hospital with cracked ribs. That didn't happen. And then I went back, and you realize that 135 people in the legislature voted for the final budget once it was amended and changed. 135 of us. And regardless of whether you're Democrat or Republican, you just may want to know, the only people that voted against it were 14 Democrats. Now the fact of the matter is that, yeah, we took money and we moved it from one place to the other, and we did fund education in a way that it needed to be funded. Why? Because we had previously taken away tax dollars that would go to schools because we were taking it out of the gas tax so we could fund transportation, of which there's billions there for transportation. But instead, we're forgetting about all that. We're building roads that the state would build. We're charging tolls that we didn't even try not to have when we went ahead and built Highway 249. I mean, come on, that's disingenuous at best, if not dishonest. So, you know, you have to get your facts right. I was there for the second session. I wasn't there for the first part of it. And secondly, the budget overall dropped by, it was a 2.1%. The tax increase in this county, 5.88% 1 year, 8.31, 6.16. It seemed to me that the county needs to pay attention to what the state's doing. We got it right.
Thank you, Representative Keough. Sherry Harrell.
Good evening. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here. And I'm going to apologize to the audience that was here earlier, but I have the same question for you all because to me, ethics, integrity, and transparency govern everything you do. And I believe that this county is rife, Montgomery County is rife with corruption, at the very least, poor ethics. So I'd like to hear from each of you. What will each of you do if elected to provide full transparency of your office, and how will each of you conduct yourselves in an ethical manner such as to restore the faith of the taxpayers you are elected to serve? Thank you.
Judge Doyle, I believe you get the first.
Now, this last year, we passed one of the strongest ethics policies of any county in the state of Texas. The only other one, I believe, is El Paso County that has a little bit stronger language because there was legislation that was created to do that. I believe in transparency. My door is an open door. If there's questions that you guys have, come ask me. I get very few people that call. I read a lot of things on blogs that don't make any sense at all. But I get very few phone calls actually asking me questions. If you have questions or concerns or thoughts about what's going on in my office, my door's open every day. People can come by anytime you want to. You call me, you come by anytime you want. We'd love to speak with anyone of you. I mean, Theo, just to touch back on the last question, in the House Journal, it did show you as a yay vote on the budget.
And how many other Republicans that we did in the total picture was 2-point drop in the total deal?
Gentlemen,
It was the example for
13.8%.
keep it to each one.
What's that?
So we,
Pardon me, I'm sorry, Judge. Go ahead, I'm sorry. I got a little carried away.
But have an open door policy. If you have questions, feel free to come by at any time. Thank you.
now Representative
Okay,
Keough.
my apologies to you. I believe we have to have an open book policy. It's your money, you ought to be able to look at whatever we're doing with your taxes. As a matter of fact, I came out with a bill in the first session, the Transparency in Local Government Bill in the House of Representatives, to tell you how many people wanted there to do it. I couldn't get anybody to do it. I couldn't get it out of committee. When it was addressed by our local government here, I even run it by our county judge. He said, we could never afford to do that. You know what I did? I got on the telephone and I called Travis County. Because I went on their line, it wasn't easy to find, but I found it, and they have a check register. I said, how much did that cost you to do? And I was told we couldn't afford this. What did that cost you to do? She said it didn't cost us anything. So it didn't cost you anything. She said it didn't. We started out with an Excel spreadsheet, and we would just look at it. And I went and I looked at it myself, and I went down through the documents, and I saw all kinds of charges, and every check that was written we knew who the check was written to and how much it was for. I thought it's almost a no-brainer. So to be able to do that and to see, if we would have had that, we wouldn't have had all that conflict years ago with the Joe Corley Center when people were writing checks. Somebody would have been alerted to this in the middle of all the conflict, and we wouldn't have had all of that. Or the other conflict where he said this, she said that, we spent this, we did that. What happened with this? What happened with that? No, I think you have to have transparency in the books. It's not our money. This is not my county. These are not my people. This is the people's county. It is their money, and it's theirs to do what they want with. We are elected representatives. We represent the people. And whether it's showing books, whether it's open records, whatever the case may be. And I think that is essential to do it. The second thing is I think we need to avoid any type of appearance, even appearance, of conflicts of interest. Now, as I read the newspaper, to my opponent's credit, he recently dissolved a partnership, but the fact of the matter is we have partnerships in other businesses that are legal. Nobody's questioning whether or not it's legal or not. Even our county attorney said it was legal, but at the same time.
Thank you, Representative Keough. Ginger Russell. I know you've crafted your question well.
I got a question now. Since 2007, taxes in Montgomery County have surged to double. Judge Doyle, you have presided over and voted on every one of these budgets that have increased our taxes, either as you served as commissioner or as you serve as a judge now. What are you both going to do to reduce spending and cut taxes?
I believe Representative Keough, you get to start this one.
Yeah, I think the first, yes, thank you, and I appreciate that question. There's a plethora of things that we could do. One is zero-based budgeting. I think every department needs to start out with zero. Every year, just like we do in business, we recalculate how many people we have, we recalculate what the expense is going to be, managers' compensations and incentives, compensation and incentives for the hourly people, or whatever the case may be, and calculate all that stuff and look at it, then do an accurate accounting of how many people we have. In other words, if we know that we're going to have 5 people and we're going to increase 2, then we can budget for 7. But if we know we're going to have 5 and we budget for 10, and then at the end of the year we sweep that money back in so that it goes into the dark hole of accounting, so that then we can take and make adjustments in the next year's budget along the way, that's not what we want to do. That's money that should go back to the people. That's money that should be used, and we should reduce taxes with those extra resources. So there's just a couple of things that I think we can do right there. I think integrity in the budget, I think is essential to what we're doing. Concerning conflicts of interest, eliminate conflicts of interest. Let everybody see exactly what's going on. So that there is no part of that, even though it may be legal, to reasonable people that take a cursory look, see the things that have gone on, they shock the conscience. And that's exactly what they do. And it's just not right. And so we find ourselves questioning government. If there's ever a time in the history of our county, in the history of the country, anywhere, I don't care, it's a bipartisan issue. You want your elected officials to be straight, and you want them to be very clear about what they're doing with your money. It's your money. It's not our money.
Right.
We serve you. You don't serve us. We guarantee your rights as government officials. Sounds very noble, but the fact of the matter is, that's American. That's what we do.
We cut the taxes, we cut the tax rate 5 times over the last 10, 11 years. We cut our budget this last year by 5.5%. We fund all of the operations of Montgomery County at a cost of about $50 per person per month. That's cutting it pretty thin. Now, JD, how much did your budget get? How much did you cut your budget this last year? 5%. If you talk to elected officials and department heads across the county, they'll tell you, we run a tight ship. We ask people to do a lot for the money that we give them to do it with. Montgomery County is in a very unique situation. We're about 80% unincorporated. We get oftentimes compared to Fort Bend County or Collin County or Denton County and others that are like Fort Bend County, for example, has the city of Katy, part of the city of Houston, that covers a large footprint of their county. We don't have that here in Montgomery County. So our sheriff's department, our constables are law enforcement for 80% of this county. Our commissioners are maintaining the roads for 80% of this county. We don't have those large municipalities, the footprints that cover those areas. And so we do a good job. When you look at the cost at the federal level, we spend about $12,100 annually to fund the federal government, about $3,800 per capita annually to fund state government. City of Conroe is about $2,000 annually. Woodlands Township is about $1,100 annually. We're at about $600 per capita annually to fund the operations of the 7th fastest growing county in the nation. We're trying to minimize the tax dollar everywhere we can and still maintain the needs of the county that's growing every single day to meet mobility needs, to meet law enforcement needs. We, in fact, received a AAA credit rating this last year. We're one of just a very few counties in the state of Texas. If you've ever gone through a ratings review, it would make an IRS audit look like a cakewalk. They looked at every nook and cranny of our state, of our county operation, our budget operation, and we received a AAA credit rating. I'm extremely proud of the operations of this county. I'm extremely proud of the work that the elected officials and department heads do with the dollars that we give.
Thank you. Next question. John Wirtz.
Well, my short tax questions were already taken, so we got a longer toll road question here. Gentlemen, late last year, out of frustration with the reckless spending, our county commissioners court have embarked on using taxpayer money the last 4 years, including the Montgomery County toll road. The GOP County Executive Committee, that's precinct chairs, voted overwhelmingly 34-1 for a referendum to allow voters to weigh in on any toll roads in Montgomery County in the future. It made such an impact at the recent SRAC, the State Republican Executive Committee meeting, that it was adopted statewide. And yet, in the last Commissioners Court meeting, Judge, you pushed forward to go out to bid for the ill-advised local tolling of the road, without a revenue report in hand yet, nor final drawing plans. As well, supporters of this say what a great deal, revenue-wise, this will be for the county, when TxDOT already said they'd build it for free. In a TxDOT meeting we both attended this past summer before Hurricane Harvey, a 40-year payback was mentioned. And while the story is it's risk-free, what happens if there's a revenue shortfall and the bondholders declare bankruptcy? Who's on the hook then?
Thank you.
Okay, first of all, we went to Austin to lobby for a road in West Montgomery County, 249 project. TxDOT made it very clear, and if the Conroe Courier's back there, they can tell you they got a letter from TxDOT that states that if that road is built, there will be a toll component to it, plain and simple. They're not going to build it for free, and to believe that is a fallacy. Now, we asked for the free road, it was not an option. So we said, all right, if it's going to be a toll, we would like to operate it. We have primacy that was given to us through the legislature. And we have resolutions from the city of Magnolia, the chamber, the ESD, the school district, law enforcement, first responders that have said if we have to have a toll road to get a road, we're desperate for one. Imagine if the Hardy Toll Road wasn't here. You had no other option to get to Houston but I-45. In fact, in Magnolia, they don't even have the freeway. All they have is the feeder roads at 249. So those people are desperate for a way to get there. They're willing to do it as a toll road. Would we prefer not to? Absolutely. But the fact is that's the only way it's going to get built. Now, revenue bonds are being sold based on the traffic and revenue study. There was one already done. It's being updated, and the draft shows that that is a very positively toll viable road. There's no question about the revenue being there to defease the debt. The question is, what happens if it does fail? Well, then the bond debt just gets restructured. No one's going to foreclose on a toll road. It doesn't happen that way. But if you look at the traffic and revenue study, and you're welcome to do that, we've gotten information from our financial advisors that say there's more than adequate funding to serve the debt on that project. Now, I wish there was a way to do it for free, but to believe that TxDOT can do that, Mr. Keough has said he's talked to someone, he said he demanded to talk to someone from TxDOT. I'm not sure who that was. I'd love to talk to him, because I've not heard from anyone from TxDOT at the Highway Commission or the director of TxDOT himself. You can look at the videos when we were at that meeting, and they flat said it's not going to be funded by TxDOT without a toll component. And so that's the only way we can get a road built for the citizens of Bancroft.
You? It's hard to know where to begin. I have to tell you, when county government goes to Austin and lobbies for a toll road, when voted on by the Commissioner's Court in Montgomery County 3-2, and then Grimes County votes against it and goes and gets a free road with no toll, longer road than what we have, and then we hear in Commissioner's Court that our tolls here that we're going to collect are going to help pay for that. And then we hear, well, we can't start on that unless we have this guaranteed here, but we've already started on that up there. Something is not right here. The fact of the matter is that we lobbied for a toll road across the board. Now, we just happen to have this 3.5 mile or 4.5 mile, whatever it is, section in 249 that we are going to do for whatever reason we're going to do it. But the fact of the matter is the toll component of roads is beginning to cease. The governor, the lieutenant governor, the legislature, the Senate, the Republican Party of Texas. This recently happened. We had to fight to get the local Republican Party to put this on the agenda for a vote about the people coming up in the primary. So the fact of the matter is that we are sitting here and our county government is lobbying for a toll road when we didn't even try not to get the toll road. Now, we have been told, just in the last Commissioner's Court, well, if we didn't do it, then this would take years. I heard that from a commissioner the other day. That is not the case. I can tell you unequivocally, as a sitting state representative, where I have the authority to call and question and ask these questions, they told me they could switch that road over from us to them, and it would only take 6 months. We were told if we didn't build this road, it was going to take 10 years. We were also told that it would be possibly in the form of an FM road. We don't know, but we don't really know that because we didn't try. In fact, at the end of the day, I think if we try, do our very best, it turns out that's what it has to be, and it looks like it's going to be now, you know, that's a problem when other counties don't have to pay.
Thank you, Representative.
Back in the matter is, we went to Austin to lobby for a road. And the Highway Commission told us the only way we would get that road would be if it was tolled, plain and simple. That was their answer. Now, Representative Keough said he's talked to someone at Dexter. I'd like to know who it is, because I would hope that you used all your power as a state representative to influence that person to build the road as a free road, but it didn't happen. It's not happening. Now, the sad thing is, we've been negotiating on this road for almost 5 years, trying to get it built. And in that time, not one time, Mr. Keough, did I see you at a 249 partnership meeting. Not one time did I see you at a Highway Commission meeting. I never got a phone call from you saying, hey, there are other options here. What I have seen is you have attacked that road that's needed and supported by the west side of Montgomery County for political purposes. The only time I heard about it is when you started running for county judge. And that's very frustrating, to take the pit two sides of the county against one another for political reasons. That's not leadership. It's just not. It's politics.
Judge?
Bring it on.
I gotta tell you, I tried to talk to you about taxes and you wouldn't listen. You came and lobbied me in my office on why we couldn't put a constitutional cap on taxes. When I had called a meeting and I asked you to come, or I asked our county tax assessor collector to come, and you came and told us that we could not afford a homestead exemption. So this idea that I didn't come to you, are you kidding? Well, how come you didn't come to Austin? You're paying attention to what was going on at the county level. You'd have been there when we were making a decision on toll roads at that time in the state when we voted against it. Where were you when we did that? This is nothing new. Just because it's 249, that's not the issue. It's about toll roads in general.
Yes.
The whole state is telling us gas tax to be able to do this. And as late as October of this last year, Lieutenant Dan Patrick and the governor stopped 15 toll projects. And I'm sitting here and I'm going, why are we still doing 249?
Yeah.
I'm not against 249. It's people in Magnolia that are going to take it in the chin as a result of this.
Thank you.
They're requesting it.
Thank you.
Yeah,
The county
chambers.
government is requesting it.
Next question will be from the audience. Susan Hirsch.
I want to first thank both of you for your contributions to Texas.
Pull the mic down and speak up a little bit louder.
I want to first thank both of you for your contributions to Texas. And I know that's a lot to do of your own selves. And I have a question that's very near and dear to me. It's about the extension from the Woodlands to 249. This is a road that has been voted down by the voters every election in the past few years. And I'm just wondering what your views are on this extension. That would ruin the Woodlands.
Thank you.
Representative Keough, you are.
Well, you know, my position is on it. The people have voted. It was even renegotiated, which is part of this whole legal conflict that's going on, but nonetheless, it was even voted on a second. I said, they voted it out the first time, and the second time they pulled out Woodlands Parkway. So I'm looking at a letting schedule. I've got a copy of it right here. I'm looking at the letting schedule, and that's the organization of events, who's paying for, how long it is, and what's taking place. And I come across a section that is on our 249 that says that there is going to be basically a bridge, a grade separation at Woodlands Parkway. I'm going, wait a second. So I contacted our friends down at the Department of Transportation, and they said, well, that's not right. It's been changed. Okay, well, what is it now? Well, it's changed to Wood Trace. I said, well, where's Wood Trace? And I looked at a map from 2016 of the roads, of how this is all developed. I have that right here with me as well. I can show you. And you know that they changed the name of Woodlands Parkway to Wood Trace, and they're still planning on building a road that's going to go all the way down through, and part of it is being funded through this toll project where there is a grade separation, which is basically a bridge over. That is still, it's up to date. I saw it the other day before our last debate, and it's in there, regardless of the cost. But I've seen changes. It was supposed to be 3.5, now it's 4.5. That has not changed in the new updated data. Still keep hearing 3.5. We heard 73, then it was 63, and then it was 60, then it went up to 82. I looked at all this stuff, and even the people from the engineering company said that that TxDOT doesn't have the right information. Well, I said to TxDOT, where are you getting it from? They said, we're getting it from you guys. That's the engineering company working on behalf of the state. You have all these conflicts. We really don't know what's going on. And not only that, they changed the date from January this year, and they moved it to May. Now, why would they do that? That's conveniently after the election. So all this stuff is
It's been
going on
voted
here.
down so many times, why are they
Thank you.
pursuing it?
The question's been posed.
Woodlands
Judge
Parkway,
Doyle.
clear up some of your confusion, Representative Keough. If you look where the Woodlands Parkway was originally planned to touch 249, the curb cut is there. If you look directly across 249, what's the name of that subdivision? Wood Trace. And they're talking about an overpass over the Wood Trace entrance to that subdivision on 249. There's no plans to build Woodlands Parkway, although I do appreciate you supporting it in the May 2015 bond issue. Now, in 2006, I had a resolution from the South County Chamber asking me to go purchase the right-of-way for the Woodlands Parkway so that as soon as the funding was available, the project could be built. And as commissioner, that's what I did in 2007 and 8, went over and purchased the right-of-way over to to Dobbin Huff Smith Road in preparation for that project. Now, to 2015, the bond issue failed because of that one single project. We renegotiated, sat down with the opposition to the bond issue, and we're in this room tonight. We sat down, Commissioner Riley took that road off of the bond issue, so it's not on there. But, you know, it's a project that I think at some point is going to be critically needed for mobility across that section of Montgomery County. I think it's needed today, quite frankly. Now, I appreciate again, Representative Keough, your support of that project. I think that at some point, you know, we'll see it built. It's part of our major thoroughfare plan. We do have a major thoroughfare plan. It's been in place for the last 30 years. That project's been on there. And we do coordinate that major thoroughfare plan with other county commissioners across the county and developers as they develop projects in Montgomery County. So, yeah, the Woodlands Parkway extension is not under construction. It's not planned. And Wood Trace is a part of the 249 projects. Totally separate issues.
Thank you. Next question will be from Phil O'Sullivan.
Good evening, gentlemen. Happy to see you this evening. Speak to you both often. My question is about the future. Back about, I say about 4 years ago, we had a mobility study done in South County. It incorporated all of Precinct 3 and some of Precinct 2, and I don't know if it extended into 4 or not. When you got out up around 242, I'm not sure if it did all of that. But it said for just that section of the county, roughly 25 to 30% of the county, it was going to cost, well, in terms of population, but in terms of area, it was a lot smaller than that. It was going to cost $1.6 billion to complete the mobility plan over 25 years. Now, we went down the road and we had bonds and they didn't pass and all the rest of that, and then finally we passed something, and now South County is getting a little over 100 million.
Bill, if you could wrap up your question.
Okay, a little over 100 million. How are you going to make over the next 23 years to come close to that 1.5 billion?
We're not. It's just simply not going to happen. But what a mobility plan does is it gives you a roadmap of where you need to go. That doesn't mean you're going to get every one of those done. Even our major thoroughfare plan shows lines on the map that may never be built. But what that's designed to do is to preserve those corridors as development occurs so that they don't get bottlenecked and blocked out so the road can't get through there and we don't cover those corridors up. Now, even dealing with HGAC, who helped us put together or revise our major thoroughfare plan, it's been through 4 or 5 revisions over the last 30 years. We did that, we updated it a couple of years ago. Now, when South Montgomery County did their mobility plan, at that time, even HGAC said a mobility plan for the entirety of the county right now is premature. Our major thoroughfare plan looks at those major corridors and preservation of those. As we get to areas like where they're more populated, like the city of Conroe, here in South County, where there's more congestion, there's more build out a mobility plan makes sense. But in the rural parts of the county right now, they're telling us that a mobility plan is not necessary. A major thoroughfare plan will accommodate what we need to do right now. As we look at other areas, we've worked with Commissioner Metter and Commissioner Riley, funded with the city of Montgomery a study to do a mobility plan for around the city where it makes sense. But in the rural parts of the county, a mobility plan just doesn't do it. But 1.6 or 1.5 billion, whatever that number is, in 23 years, we're not going to be able to do that. We're always behind on roads, but that's a roadmap for what we need to do, but we're not going to ever be able to accomplish all of that.
I think we need to do pretty much whatever it takes to keep people moving in this county. We need to leverage state and federal funds in order to get them to help us. Given the size of our county and the economic prowess of this county, we have the ability, when we ask and we negotiate and we work with and we reach out to people who can help us with these things. Now, as it relates to wood trace, I think it's important to understand that that was all addressed in 2015, but we have a 2016 Mobility Montgomery County Thoroughfare Plan that shows wood trace coming right off the end of Woodlands Parkway. So Woodlands Parkway is an integral part of this whole deal as it extends. Let's call it wood trace over to the subdivision of wood trace. I think we should. I also think it's important that, yeah, I support mobility. But you know what I support more than mobility? I support the will of the people. I came out in an op-ed, I came out in a press release. When this whole issue of this whole road came out, I asked the commissioners in passion, I said, please pull Woodlands Parkway. I got $183 million worth of roads in my district. 44 million of it's in the Woodlands, 20 million of it has to do with this extension. Please pull it out. We can't afford to miss this like we did in 2011. So sure enough, they didn't do that. They didn't listen to what the people wanted, and we voted on it, got voted down. Then they still didn't ask the people, and they negotiated a deal on the side without the people's approval. And when it all happened, I said, hey, wait a second, nobody asked me, I'm a voter. We can constantly get run over in this county by what government wants to do and the agenda that they have. In this particular case, as it relates to this, I say if the people don't want it, then don't build it. We work for them.
Yeah.
Okay, our next question will come from Sherry Shorten.
My question's already been answered.
Okay. Thank you for giving somebody else a chance. Next one, John Ballman.
Good evening. Thank you for coming out tonight. I have the same question I asked the prior group. Has to do with the collections from the four PC office, Justice of the Peace office, JP office, that are not using the judicial system that was put in place 4 years ago. It was before you were judge, I believe, Judge Doyal. And at that time, there was a discussion at the Commissioner's Court in which these four JPs came in and in a very passionate way argued that they should continue doing what they were doing. But what's turned out now is that they are not doing a very good job collecting the fines that they issue. And I'm trying to figure out who's responsible for that. I thought maybe the treasurer was, because the treasurer said that they were responsible for all the money in, and receivables, from my perspective, is kind of money in, but apparently that's not the case. We do have a collections group that I've discovered does not collect for these courts. So I'm just wondering who is responsible for collecting the funds that come into those JP courts.
Thank you, John. Representative Keough, I believe you go first.
The individual who runs the court is responsible to make sure that the fees are collected. Edie Conley has no problem in our district collecting funds. There are those in other places and other sections of the county that do have problems with it. I think it's interesting that the ones who are having problems with it are the ones that are the least transparent. The ones that we can't see really what's going on because of quote-unquote new equipment that's coming in or whatever. You've got this person over here operating with this particular system. You got this one operating over here with a particular system. What needs to happen is the county judge needs to get everybody together at the court, put it on the agenda. It needs to become an open discussion where we need to have individuals from the community and individuals actually who are the commissioners court to decide how we're going to handle this. Because we talk about unity in the county. How in the world can we have unity in the county when we can't get the justices of the peace figuring out a way to collect the people's money across the board? We need processes and procedures put in place in this county that are just not there. Like a normal business does it. Like a normal business. I was in business for 26, almost 27 years, where I had the opportunity to put in processes and procedures in businesses. And those are essential to how we operate. But we don't have that right now. So that's why one judge has a terrific opportunity and a sense about collections, while another judge doesn't. That's all part of it. I think it all starts from the head. I think it starts with leadership. And what leadership brings before the commissioners court, puts on the agenda and says, we need to talk about this. Let's discuss it in an open meeting. Let's have a workshop and let's get it handled.
Judge Doyle?
Yeah, a few years ago, we put together a pilot program using this collection system that the JPs chose to, 4 of them chose to. In talking with the JPs over time, they feel like that system is working very well. I don't know where the information's coming from that shows that there's a discrepancy there, but I talked to one of them today, so they've collected over $6 million with the system. It operates much like our delinquent tax program does, where we have an organization that does delinquent collections for the courts, that charges a fee to those individuals who are delinquent. It costs the taxpayers nothing. They go out there and pursue those dollars. We get, if someone's fee is $100, the county gets $100, and they tack an additional cost onto it for that person who is delinquent, and that's where they generate their revenue. They're very effective, very efficient, just like our delinquent tax collection attorneys are for taxes. It's no different. It's working very well. If you talk to the 4 JPs that are using it, and I've talked to them on a number of occasions, the numbers that they're telling me are very effective. They seem to have been skewed somewhere. So I would, and look forward to getting some reports from them coming to court. As a matter of fact, we've got a couple of them I know they're going to come to court in a short time to give us an update on what's happening. But I can tell you right now that they're doing an effective job in collecting those dollars that they are responsible to collect.
Next question will be from Sherry Johnston.
Good afternoon. I'm going to change the subject just a little bit. I have spent many hours in Austin testifying before the legislators and hundreds of hours in courtrooms in family guardianships in Harris County and a few in Montgomery County. My question to either or both of y'all is, would y'all be interested in having families go to arbitration to prevent their children and their parents from entering into a guardianship? It would also, the courtrooms wouldn't be near as congested, and the abuse and exploitation of the elderly and families and guardianships would be a lot lower, considering that we have over 58,000 elderly people and children in guardianships losing their rights every day without a trial by jury. I'd like to know what y'all's input would be.
Sure. Anything we could do to help protect the children and the elderly, if it's an arbitration system that can work, I absolutely would support that. Because I think that there's too many times that families get torn apart, issues get drawn out through courts, and maybe some kind of arbitration would be the answer. So absolutely, I would support that.
Thank you. There's a lot of arbitration that's going on right now. I took, during the interim between the last session and this session, I took courses at University of Texas Law in mediation and also at the Conflict Resolution Center in Conroe. And I sat in on arbitration where it takes place in Conroe. I spent a lot of time during the interim at the Department of Family and Protective Services actually going and visiting families, going out with investigators, and just spending time with them. Anything that can help us arbitrate parental guidance for sure needs to be done. What I experienced, though, is that there was such conflict between these parents, even though we had arbitration, there was such conflict, I mean hostile conflict, that the kids were caught in the middle of this deal, and it just seemed like there was no way out, and there needed to be some type of change. But what we have done is we have seen that there is arbitration, and with some it does change. It is already taking place. So, could it be done better? Absolutely. Would I be interested in seeing it done better? Absolutely. This is my committee. I'm very much interested in that. It was involved in legislation having to do with the Department of Family and Protective Services, for sure.
Thank you. Just a moment. Mr. Yawley.
My name is Eric Yawlik. In the event, and this is addressed to both of you, in the event that you win the Republican primary in March and you're able to win the general election in November, what reform leadership can we look forward to from each of you with respect to the salaries of the county judge and the county commissioners?
The very first agenda of my very first Commissioners Court, I will have on the agenda that I am going to move, and it'll be voted on by them. I can't decide this myself. I am personally going to take a 12% cut in the salary for the county judge. Not only that, but I'm going to freeze it, and I've committed to freezing it as long as I am the county judge. And at the same time, I'm not looking at everybody else's salary. I'm not looking at anybody else's salary in the county. That really is a non-issue today. The real issue is the leading by example, and I'm going to do that. I think if there are changes that ever do take place, they'll take place with attrition, whether it has to do with retirement, whether it has to do with salaries or the rest. And so that's my position on it. I'm going to lower my salary 12%, number one, and number two, I'm going to freeze it as long as I have the opportunity to serve this community as county judge.
I wouldn't. I would leave it where it is. I think you get what you pay for. I know I earn every penny that I make. I work hard every day. And there's a lot of commissioners that work just as hard as I do. And so I don't think that I think sometimes you do that, you lower that salary to a point and you're going to get what you pay for. And so no, I wouldn't consider lowering the salary. We didn't take any raises this last year. We didn't give anybody any raises this last year. A couple of years ago, we didn't give raises for elected officials. But no, I would not lower my salary if I were elected.
Next question, Mark Frank.
You make sure you get my good side over there. I'm watching you at Photoshop. Okay, gentlemen, how are y'all doing today? All right. Much like any other elected official, I'm always held accountable to my constituents. My area is a little different than most, but just like every other one, they all have one key message that they want brought across today. If I was to go back on my word, my people would have zero faith in me. They would lose all respect. With that statement, as a commissioner, can you tell the people today that you will represent them and their interests alone in Montgomery County only? As a side note, try to state an instance where you were faced with fierce opposition from special interest groups, outside forces that tried to sway your opinion to do something other than represent the people.
Well, yeah, we represent the people every day. What you have to understand is that the needs and desires of different groups and areas across this county are different. If we were having this meeting in Magnolia, you'd hear the same round of applause for the 249 project that you're hearing against it in this room. I understand that. So you've got to be able to represent every group of people in every occasion. We also have to work, while we're not necessarily just Montgomery County, we're also regional. I work very well with Commissioner Keough in Harris County to provide mobility projects. We work together to help try to negotiate the issues that were blocking production on the Kirkendall and Gosling bridges. It's important that we work with our neighboring counties to make sure that we meet the needs of all, particularly Montgomery County, but sometimes that means reaching out across county lines. I've never been put in a position where I was asked to put one county over us. Wouldn't do that. but I've never even been put in that position. But we have worked well with other counties to do projects that enhance both areas. And I think that's important to be able to do. So no, I would never do anything that would be adverse to the citizens of Montgomery County. Realizing that in any room we enter, there are going to be differing opinions. There are going to be differing needs. You have to be willing to reach out and listen to those others that think maybe differently than you do. And so I spend a lot of time talking to people in East Montgomery County whose needs are very different than those here. Again, I can't express how important it is that you pay attention to every single person in Montgomery County, not just one group. Thank you.
You know, I traveled the county over after I won my election. I knew there were people that voted against me. And when I felt like they voted against me, I for sure wanted to go see them, because I knew that when I went to see them, I could at least talk to them and tell them God created me with 2 ears and 1 mouth, 2 ears to listen and 1 to talk. And I went to them and I would say to them, I understand that you didn't vote for me, but you know what? I'm still your state representative. I still represent you. What's important to you? I don't see that going on here in our county. I keep hearing how we have different groups with different ideas, and yet I go to different groups, and that same group that applauded at one point in that group we were at last night, the other night, also applauded for me when I rebutted that series of issues. I mean, that's not the test of it. The test of it is whether or not we can produce and demonstrate that we'll produce. And if you don't know, how do you guarantee it? You put it in writing so that the people can see it. I came out with a contract with Montgomery County. I've been talking about this for a long time. You'll be able to look at this contract in 100 days from when I'm sworn in this county. You'll be able to look at whether or not we're transparent. You'll be able to look at whether or not elected officials are servants of the people or not. You'll be able to look at whether or not we're fiscally responsible and accountable. We'll be able to look at appraisals. You'll be able to look at tax rates. You'll be able to look at countywide mobility infrastructure coordination. You'll be able to look at whether or not Montgomery County is first. Montgomery County is first. We are Montgomery County. It's not them, it's not us, it's not these people. We are Montgomery County. And as I travel the county, I found out, you know what? We all pretty much believe the same things. We get this idea that we're grassroots or that we're establishment. Let me tell you something. We are Montgomery County. We rise or we fall together. And what you need is not to sit there and just roll over and play dead for indifferent. Rather, what you need is leadership that says, let's bring people together, and I will do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think it's important that you do what you say you're going to do. You were elected as a state rep to go. One of the big differences between you and Bruce Tuff was his support for Joe Strauss and your opposition. But yet you wrote the seconding speech for Joe Strauss. Well, you were elected to do one thing, and you went up there. Matter of fact, one of your comments was that as a speaker isn't one. The tenure of the speaker is one of respect, honor, and statesmanship. And it's surprising that you would tell people that's what you were going to do, and then go and make the seconding speech from the very man who said you were going to go to battle against. You know, contract or not, you know, we both have histories, we both have records. You know, the one thing that you'll find, you may not like everything I do, but you'll find it's pretty predictable and it's pretty consistent. I think that's important.
Rhonda Tate.
I've heard a lot about the different areas of Montgomery County. You both know that I'm from East County. I'm really interested in 105 being widened. How long is it going to take us to do it? Am I going to see it in my lifetime? Thank you.
Yeah, 105 was one of the projects that was part of the bond package, and Commissioner Clark's been working on trying to deal with that. We've been talking with TxDOT. In fact, I think at one point I had Adam Galan from TxDOT come and see you guys. And we'd be glad at any time to go and meet with our representatives from TxDOT and try to get that project pushed forward. You know, there's been a lot of different design changes. There's been some public meetings out there in East Montgomery County to look at whether or not there should be a curb separation in the center, a divided median, or open ditch type construction. We'd be more than happy to go down and sit down with TxDOT with you guys or independently and make sure that project gets moved forward as quickly as possible. We're with the commissioner to do that, because it's critical. 105 East is one of the most deadly sections of roads in Montgomery County. That's recognized as that. And so we will continue to work every day to get that project pushed forward. So as like I said, it's on the bond issue. We have to be able to leverage our dollars, our bond dollars, with tax dollars. We've been able to do that very effectively. You know, the pass-through project was the first in the state of Texas that got 1488, 1484, 1314, 1485, and the flowers at 242 done. So we have a good partnership with Texas. We have a good relationship there. Glad to work with you on getting 105 and move forward.
Last time I checked, the bond was completed in what, 2015, Judge, was it?
Not all the bonds.
Well, but most of it. And in fact, the matter is, the only thing that has gotten done really so far is anything that's down in Rayford area, a little bit more, but not much. So we voted, we've gone to court over this. We have people accused of doing a wrong thing in combination with other people in the county in order to get there what they wanted done. So the fact of the matter is, we just need to go do it. We have the resources, we put the money aside, and we just need to step up and get it done. If I'm elected, you can count on 105 getting done. As it relates to doing things that we say we're going to do, you know, I think we should talk about this Joe Strauss deal, because I did give him a seconding speech, and you know, when I gave him the seconding speech, I planned on voting against him the second time. But they decided that there were going to be 150 Texas legislators, 149 beside me, that everybody agreed to green light. That means show on the board that they were going to vote in favor of him. I said, what? I plan on voting against him. And the reason they wanted to do that, because there was a fear that they were going to have a problem getting legislation done. So I was called by a very conservative group, said this is what we're going to do. I said, okay, I'll go with you. 2 days later, I got a telephone call from the Speaker's office that asked me, would you consider doing a seconding speech? Now everybody else, 149 other people, have the advantage of getting their legislation done. I get put on the spot over the telephone, and I'm going to say, oh, let me think about it, Mr. Speaker. I'm not quite sure, right? Not a chance. I immediately said yes, and I did everything I could to make my county proud of me in the speech I said. I'd never one time in that speech, and you can go listen to it, talked about policy, I talked about procedures, I talked about respect for the position, I talked about honor, and I talked about statesmanship, all of which was true. Now, did things change a little bit in the next session? Sure they did. We changed chiefs of staff in that position. We changed parties pretty much in that position. And there was a lot of chaos, and very few people got very much done in the second round. But the fact of the matter is, doing what we say we're going to do, we're still waiting on the things that happened from the road bond that caused all this conflict to begin with. And here we are, you're asking the question still, going into 2018 on something that should have been started a long time.
Thank you. Candidates have taken up the time for answering your questions. They'll each have a 2-minute closing statement. I'm sure they will be available for direct conversation afterwards. Thank them for coming out. Excuse me. I want to thank all of you for your questions. Some of us study this all the time, had questions that we've developed. Others, I want to make sure that every citizen gets as much opportunity as possible to ask your question. Whether you're somebody who spends a lot of time on this craziness, I'm part of that craziness, so I can say that. Or whether you're just a voter that would like to come find out what are these people all about. So, gentlemen, your closing statements. 2 minutes. I believe you were first.
It has been a privilege to serve as county commissioner for the time that I did over in Magnolia. It's been a privilege to serve as your county judge. I love this county. My family's here, my kids are here, my grandkids are here. My office is 2 blocks from the house that my father was born in. And so it's important to me that this county grows in a positive manner. Every vote that we cast on Commissioner's Court, I think about how it impacts every single individual. My parents are retired on a fixed income. My daughter here that's a single mom. My wife and I pay taxes just like everybody in this room. So I think about every vote I cast and how it impacts every single person. I try every day to meet people where they are, the needs that they have. Do we all agree on everything? No, because the needs are very different in lots of parts of the county. But I think it's important that we make this whole county grow in a positive way, because I think the brightest days of Montgomery County are ahead of us. I can tell you that in the last 3 years as county judge, I've made 4 disaster declarations. And as the director of emergency management, I think every one of those has been handled in a very professional, effective, efficient way, particularly Hurricane Harvey. I fought a lot of battles personally and politically over that time. In the meantime, we cut the tax rate last year, one of 5 times we've done that while I've been on the board. We cut the budget by 5.5%. We put a 20% homestead exemption on the books, first time in history. We put 53 new law enforcement positions in place. We funded our retirement plan at 89%, which is what gets a lot of municipalities and counties in trouble. We're in good shape there. We got a AAA credit rating, which is, we're one of, I think, last I heard, I think it's like 10 counties of the 254 have been able to achieve that. And we do all that at a cost of about $50 per person for you. I'm proud of what we've accomplished in our court. I'm proud of what I've accomplished in my time as your county judge. I look forward to serving you in the future, and I hope that I will get your support. I'm here tonight to ask you for your vote. I'd like to continue to move Montgomery County forward because I know we're going to grow. I know what it took to get here. I know what it will take to get us to the point that we're headed to. So thank you for your time tonight. Thank you for coming. Thank you.
Representative Keough. I think that leadership is everything. And I think when we lead, I think we have to demonstrate integrity in leadership, and I think we need to square off with people where we really are. I have sat here tonight and listened to twice, possibly 3 times here, that we have lowered the tax rate 5 times in the last 10 years. No, we haven't. I've got the documents right here. I can show you every change in rate that's happened 3 times in the last 10 years. Under normal conditions, that's not a big deal. We missed it by 2. It's only 40% off when you're talking about numbers and about people's money. I mean, come on. Not only that, not only have we only lowered it 3 times, we've only lowered it 2 cents over a 10-year period. 2 cents, while we've increased the assessments on homes 144%, and that translates into taxable, and net taxable 133%. That's not leadership. Leadership is figuring out how to keep and maintain the value of your home, and as your homes increase, while not docking the poor people that you and I, who are out there, who have built this county and have built this community. But you know what? It's being built on the backs of the people that have already put in the time, have already put in the money, and it's not just about schools. Schools is not the issue here. We keep hearing that it's the issue, but it's not the issue. We keep hearing about it per capita and how with $50 for services. Do you realize that here in our county that we are number 7 out of the top 10 taxing counties in the state of Texas? Do you understand that? And that we are number 2 in per capita taxing in our assessments? I mean, it's amazing. And yet we continue to hear how great everything is. We can hear about a AAA. I mean, it's great. I think it's awesome that we have a AAA tax, a AAA credit rating. But you know what? If we have a AAA credit rating and we continue to lower our rates so that they stay the same, that's not going to change our AAA credit rating. What we're doing is, as the rates are not going down, we're raising the taxes on the people who are here in terms of their appraisals, and it is the property that guarantees this loan. We're way far beyond a AAA tax rating, or a credit rating.
Thank you, Representative Keough. One other thank you that I was remiss. A minute ago, we owe a great thanks to the City of Shenandoah for making this facility available. If you would, double check, don't leave any papers, anything else laying around. You pick all those up and take the things with you. You can meet with the candidates out in the corridor. Thank you very much. We will be here again next week.